Hi, boys and girls. It's Wednesday night. I'm reading chapter 8 so that you'll see what's happening to Lolly and the gang. Blam! Us after schoolers all jerked our heads towards the open door of our study room. We were sitting here, noses in our books, when we heard the sound of a gunshot. But there had been no gunshot. The blast had come from Big Rose. She had forced the door to the room open by ramming her big old butt into it. The slamming door had gone blam, and now we were watching Big Rose's wide shoulders as she stepped in backward to the community center's study room. "Dang, Big Rose," Sunshine shouted. "You scared me." "Sonny, be quiet, please," Miss Jenna said. "Rosamond, find a seat quietly." When Big Rose, a.k.a. Rosamond Major, just stood there in the door of the study room with her huge back to us all, not saying nothing, Miss Jen sighed and got up to see what was going on. It was a mouse outside in the hallway. A real one. Big Rose was standing in the doorway, fascinated by the mouse. Miss Jen shooed it away and tried to pat Big Rose's shoulder, but the girl ducked away from her. We all laughed. Big Rose spun around and eyed all of us like she was surprised to see us sitting there. She just started coming to after school in November. This girl had lived in St. Nick for a while, I think, and she'd been thrown out of too many after schools to even count. Big Bad Rose liked to bang up other kids, so that's what we heard. And she was special too. Big Rose stood there surveying us all for a minute and then stomped to the chair that she usually sat in, all by itself, way on the other side of the room. I watched her and traded grins with Sunshine and Vega. Rosamond Major was the biggest and tallest kid in all after school. Maybe even the biggest, tallest kid in all Harlem. This girl had a watermelon head and this way of walking or stomping that looked like she was skipping rope on the moon. She kind of hopped into the air with every step she took. Her big old eyes flashed straight ahead, and her upper lip was always tucked inside her bottom one. She fell into her chair and plunged into one of the tiny books she always kept in her backpack. She would stay reading like that for most of after school. None of the other kids would say much, if anything at all, to her. Miss Jen would check in on her a couple of times. Otherwise, it was like Big Rose wasn't even in the room, except I couldn't help but watch her. Her head was like a dark planet that drew your eyes. I had never heard her speak. I wasn't even really sure she knew how. A little after we had had our snack, the community center got froze out. This happened sometimes. A freeze-out just meant that the staff closed and locked the doors to the building and nobody can come in or go out until the director said so. Usually it was because there was some trouble in the neighborhood. A dangerous kind of trouble, like a beef between dealers of a gang. But this time it really was a shooting. Some 14-year-old dude was shot in front of the bodega. Sonny heard it, but it was because the dude had slapped some other guy's girl. The girlfriend happened to be the girlfriend of a dealer. Because of this, nobody could enter or leave the center until it was safe. Vega was leaning in one corner of the room laughing about something with Darrell B., but I sat at a table by myself. On the floor, somebody had tracked in some slush from outside, and when I left our place this morning, it had been snowing. Now, it had all turned from bright white flakes to grubby gray mush. This winter, the snowstorms and darkness had really got to me. I wondered if I'd ever be happy again. This winter, the only thing that seemed to help was building my castle. When I was building, I forgot about everything else. But Mama was going to make me rip down the house of Monkey Rom. And it was going to be tonight. I just knew it. And I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I felt like I was losing control. "Why did you used to be so angry at your father?" I asked Mr. Ali. "I told you," Mr. Ali said. "No, you didn't." I think I did tell you. And there's no need to shout." "Hey, look," I started. "Mr. Washpole, You are a brainy young man, but there are some things you're keeping to yourself, which is very dumb. I want to help you." I thought again about Jermaine and what had gone down between me and him before he passed. I guess it had been bothering me. It had been a bad way to end things with my brother. "You tell me why you're so angry now, and I'll tell you why I was so angry then," he said. "Is it a deal?" I sucked in on my teeth. "I don't got time for this." "All right. How's your father?" "Oh, God, why would you bring him up? He's fine, I guess." It's got to be rough on him, losing a son. Parents aren't meant to bury their kids. Kids, we basically grow up knowing that one day we're going to bury our parents because they're going to leave us. But parents, well, they're just not conditioned to see their kids go before them. Never really thought about that. Mr. Ali leaned in closer across his desk. "Wallace, this might be a good time to get to know your father a little better, you know? You don't see him very much, at least not as much as you'd like." "Well, that's on him, not me." Ali said, "He's your father. He is supposed to make time to see you." I sat back in my seat and I tried to look relaxed. "Remember," Ali said, "your dad is having just as difficult a time adjusting to Jermaine's death as you are, perhaps even more. Consider that when you manage him. This could be new, fortuitous opportunity for you and your father to shape something better." I just frowned. "Be open," he said. "I'd rather keep closed. Nobody's got me. Nobody cared." And suddenly, I felt sick and hot. Well, that was kind of a quick chapter, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how long chapter 9 is. Maybe we could do both. You know what, ladies and gents? We're going to go for chapter 9 too. It's quite short. So chapter 9. My head was freezing. A big wind swooshed down 125th Street, made my head feel even frostier. I decided to speed up. My eyes were darting all around me, prepared to be ambushed. Ever since Christmas Eve, I had felt like people were on the lookout for me. I had only time tonight because I was feeling really restless, like I just had to get up and get out or move. Even if I did get pounced on tonight, I still needed to get out and walk. I knew nobody else cared, and I was starting not to care too. I had hoped the weather out here would cool me down. I stopped at Tuma's tiny shop on 125th. Tuma was my African hookup. His shop sold all kinds of stuff, from hair care products to body oils to bootlegged clothes from African statues. Every time I asked the old dude what was his home country, he dodged around, like he was hiding the truth. Chuma had kids back in Africa, and he probably saw them more than I saw my own father. My brother had been more of a father to me than Benny Rashpal had been. I had felt safe around Jermaine. Just walking down the block with him, I knew nobody could touch me. If Jermaine had still been alive, I wouldn't have felt so nervous stepping down 125th like I'd been feeling now. Tuma's little shop didn't have no door. You just slid it off into the street. And all the items he sold was still sitting right there out in the open. No AC in the summer, neither. No real heat in the winter. I couldn't sit out here in the cold all day like that. I stood there on the icy sidewalk waiting for Tuma to finish selling some hats to these white people. There were lots of white people that lived in Harlem, but at the same time, it was like they didn't really live here at all. They had their own special places in Harlem that they went to that not many black folks went to. At least none of the black folks I knew. I mean, you never even saw them at any of our barbershops. Not really. I mean, if these white people lived in Harlem, why didn't they get their hair cut in our barbershops? Maybe they thought black barbers wouldn't know how to cut white heads. Or maybe the white people thought we wouldn't like them in there. It was just weird. I guess they liked staying invisible, and they liked to hide, like Tuma and Daddy. Tuma sold this grinning couple 2 African hats for $30 a piece. I knew I wasn't paying that. "Lolly," Tuma said, "come inside. Come get closer to the heat. How have you been, boy? You remind me so much of my own son back home. How are you?" He patted me on the back and pulled me near the space heater. "Fine," I kind of sang like a kid. I didn't know why I did that. Sometimes I forgot how old I really was. "I need a hat, Tuma, a black and white African hat like the one you sold them." "I think I can help you. I still have one here, and it's just for you." He started searching through his bins. I turned around and peeked out onto the sidewalk. I didn't see nobody lurking. I stepped closer to his electric heater to warm up my toes. "Here you are, Lolly. My last." He handed me one of the knit hats that was shaped like a big hockey puck. It had tassels coming out of the top. "This one's white and blue," I said. "How much?" "For you, $10. I bulged my eyes. Okay. Since you're my old friend, I'll give it for $7. I threw back my head and I stared at him. We stood like that for a while. Then I acted like I had to go, handing him back the hat. He sold me that hat for $3. I snapped it right on my head. And as I left, I saw Tuma unpack a whole nother box of those same hats, and he put them on his shelf in his shop. The wind was really whipping around here, 14 stories up. I was glad I bought this hat. In the dark, I tore another sheet of paper out of my notebook and started to fold it again. The door to get up here was broke, and so was the door along. You just needed to jiggle the locks to get it open. I stopped to look over St. Nick's house, all lit up in the night. "Excuse me, boys and girls. Nevaeh, sweetheart, can you take him out? He's standing by the door." "Yeah." "Thank you, darling." Being up here made me feel better. From where I now sat, on the roof of my own building, you could gaze out across central Harlem. At night like this, Harlem was a big, glowing crossword puzzle. You could see how the streetlights lined the avenues, crisscrossing each other. It was all a big grid. To my left, the glowing grid got all dark. St. Nicholas Park. It was mostly trees and hardly any lampposts. I leaned over the edge of my building's roof and peeked down. Some girl was walking along one of the footpaths. She was nervous. The way her head kept darting around, she was probably coming home from work. I tossed my plane out. The wind caught it and jerked it downward. My plane whirled around a bit before getting sucked between the buildings. It was too windy tonight to fly my paper plane. They were just, getting all crumped up, like destruction. I peeked down again at the footpath 14 stories below, and the girl had disappeared. The wind blew again, and the chill itched straight down my back. It was a long way down to the ground from here. A few times, people who lived in St. Nick had jumped. Couldn't take their lives the way they'd been living them, I guess. If Jermaine were here, I wouldn't be scared of nothing. He was my protector. It hurt thinking back on how he had stopped talking to me before Halloween. I wish I hadn't done what I did. Tonight, I was so high up, a big blast could take me right over the edge. But these were bad thoughts, and they were mixed with bad memories. That's all of Chapter 9, ladies and gentlemen. It seems like the book is going fast this evening. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I think on Friday we're going to try and do a WebEx, or we're going to try to do a group meet. And when I say we, Mrs. Campbell, Miss Graham, and myself are going to try to organize this. And we're hoping as many of you as possible will join us. We will send you through Dojo a notification if we manage to get this up and running. We're trying. We are really trying. But you guys know you're better at this than we are when it comes to technology. Have a great night. Stay safe, healthy. Bye, guys.